Aim assist. The biggest debate that will literally never, ever go away. It's, as long as mouse and keyboard coexist, this will never, ever go away. Covering this, I know I already told you, chat, but this is just to reiterate. Covering this, I'm going to talk about casually, why I feel like the simple answer isn't just nerf aim assist, because it's not. That's not a simple answer. Or take it out. And then I'm going to talk about it competitively. How I feel about it in its current state, which is definitely the big one, but I want to get the little one out of the way. I'm not going to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of the mouse and keyboard versus controller. That's a well beaten dead horse. I know that probably doesn't make any sense, but just roll with it. You get it. Everybody at this point knows the advantages and disadvantages. No point in talking about it. But to the casual side of things, people talk about a lot about nerfing aim assist or removing aim assist, and this is just how I see it. Obviously, this doesn't mean it's the right way, but I try to look at it as objectively as possible, because at the end of the day, I mean I am pro, but I also care about this game enough to want it to succeed more than honestly the comp scene at the end of the day, if that makes any sense without sounding awful. Because the comp scene realistically is a small part of it, but I think the comp scene is a big part in terms of the game's longevity as well, right? Even though there's only a small portion of people that actually compete, it's healthy for the game. I think it's healthy for every game to have a top end of players that are constantly recognized, that people who are casual, who don't ever care to compete, can have something to watch and look up to, maybe on the weekends on like a tournament or something, you know, they get together with the boys. Because I know when I was just casual, I did that all the time with games like Dota. I'd always look forward to tournaments on the weekends and watch them with my friends. Anyways, the biggest and I think the hardest pill to swallow, I think a lot of people forget this. I think most people know this, but I think a lot of people forget this, is that the majority, and I mean like vast majority of Apex's player base is controller. Like mouse and keyboard is I don't have the exact numbers, but I'm willing to bet mouse and keyboard is like 15%, probably even less than that. Controllers make up obviously all of Xbox, all of PS4, and the game is widely big on those consoles. I'm not really sure on PC. It seems to be a lot of controller players on PC. I don't really know exactly what the divide is, but there certainly are also a large portion of players on PC that play controller. Now, why am I saying this, you ask? If you nerf aim assist at all, I don't think nerfing aim assist is the answer. I'm just going to say that right through and through, because if you nerf aim assist at all, I'm just going to use very general numbers. I don't know exactly how many players this game has, but let's say this game has 1 million active players a day. Let's just say that for the simplicity of numbers. If you nerf aim assist at all, be it only like 2%, 3%, 4%, even 5%, a very small change. I don't know the numbers, but I guarantee you that it will immediately eliminate a portion of your player base, straight up. And I don't think that's good for the game at all, because I have a lot of friends in real life that are casual, that play a lot of these games with controller, and I know that the second the game gets frustrating or it feels like it's too hard for them, they don't care to play anymore. It's just that simple. It literally boils down to that, and I think battle royales are huge on that, because you go into a game, and if you make it to the end, it's like a 20-30 minute game, but dying when you feel like you have a really good game out of nowhere feels really bad. So a lot of players this day and age on the casual side don't care to get better at the game, and that's not like necessarily a complaint towards that side of player. I full on understand. I used to work in 9 to 5 full time. I full on understand. Not everybody cares to, you know, go to work, come home, deal with the problems they probably deal with in their personal lives every day, and try to get better at Apex. It just doesn't, that's just not realistic. Full disclosure, by the way, I have competed myself a lot on controller. I know my way around a controller. I competed in Halo, Gears, COD, went to a lot of small lands for all of them, except for COD. I only ran wagers in college for COD. But the other two, I went to a couple really small lands around me. Like, I was very interested in competing, and I know my way around controller. So I've done both. I'm not just one of those mouse and keyboard babies that, you know, I see people flame all the time on Twitter. That is the reality of it. Any percentage that you nerf aim assist, you will be effectively taking out part of your player base and any future player base, even if it's a small change. Just for some casuals, all it takes is for them to read that they nerfed aim assist, and they'll never even touch the game again, because they'll be like, oh, these devs, all they care about is the pros. I think a game like a battle royale is in a really weird state, interesting state rather, I think is a more appropriate word, where you have to kind of balance the fine line between the two. You have to balance the professional scene and you have to balance the casual scene. I don't think you should go hard on one end or the other. If anything, you probably want to go hard on the casual side if you had to pick. Reason being, like I said earlier, I do think that having a pro scene where a lot of people can follow casually is exciting for the average player. So you definitely you want to find a balance between the two. I don't think nerfing aim assist is it, because obviously that'll all the big controller creators, not all of them, some of them might complain, and that might cause some problems there on that front. But that's basically how I feel about it on casually. Not too much to go in there. I think the game aim assist wise is fine casually. We're gonna move to the pro scene side of things, where I think most of the complaints are. I thought it was kind of funny to wake up today, watch this tournament, and see EU just lose their absolute shit, their collective fucking gourds over aim assist today. Because for the longest time, EU players have been basically telling NA to suck it up, it's not that bad, etc, etc. But now, hell, there was even a tweet by RKN. Let me find it, hold on. This is just one. I love you, Nask, but I thought this is really funny. This is just one example. Here, can I zoom in on this? CSI enhance. Nask goes, July 13th, when aim assist won the last tournament, and all the NA mouse and keyboard pros, a lot of them were contemplating switching over to controller. I love you, by the way, Nask. I'm no way singling you out, because a lot of people feel this way. Clearly, you're posted pretty decently. Don't move over to controller because you think it's better. It's cringe and you're wrong. Mouse and keyboard is superior by far. And then we see the post right after, watching the most devoted aimers, people who spend hours upon hours practicing their aim, getting clapped by guys who spend minutes plugging in a controller, is a feels bad man. Now there's a duality to that. Obviously, he's upset one, that aim assist is strong enough that it can just one clip people like it's nothing, and two, he's also upset at the fact that a player like Hal, who doesn't play on controller often, plugs in a controller and he still whoops most of the players in the tournament. And I'm gonna address that one too, because that's one that really grinds my gears when I see people's counter arguments to that. But we'll address it here all in a bit. Competitively, I think rather it's too late to do anything, unfortunately, to aim assist and whatnot in this game. I think the best way competitively to have a game, whether it's a battle royale, whether it's a casual game, it doesn't matter. I think the competitive integrity is a little bit lost if you have two different peripherals that are balanced differently facing off against each other. I think the competitive integrity is just gone. I think now, and this is a hindsight thing, 100%. I think looking back when Apex's esports was being incepted, they probably should have said, hey, do we make it all mouse and keyboard based, or do we make it all controller based? I don't think, if we really want to have a competitive setting, I don't think having the two mixed together works. I don't care if Apex came out tomorrow and been like, all right, well, now everybody in competitive, now you're all on controller or all on mouse and keyboard. I don't care which way. I am personally, I don't give a fuck if you play on a controller. I know there are a lot of people there are a lot of people in the Apex community that look at the pros, the mouse and keyboard pros, and think we're all just salty and bitter about controller players, and that's not necessarily true. Like, yes, at the core of it, like aim assist can be really annoying, because like Nask said, you know, we spend years trying to perfect our aim, work on it, and all to be could be outdone by almost by most slightly above average casual players that are on a controller that know how to move their thumbs. That is annoying, but I really don't think that it's that. We're not necessarily saying, like, you know, there are some that are saying it, but what annoys me the most as a pro that sees all these people that are on the controller side of things, again, I'm on neither side. Realistically, I don't give a fuck what the hell you play on. But what annoys me on both ends of the spectrum is when people on controller or on mouse and keyboard just like talk so much shit toward one another when they don't even know the person. It just boggles my mind, like to the point where it gets personal. The thing I hate most about this entire mouse and keyboard debate is all the people that basically borderline sexually identify as their gaming peripheral. I think it's fucking cringe. I think anytime a controller player posts something successful and then their whole community is like, oh, fuck those mouse and keyboard pussies, I think that's fucking weird. And vice versa, anytime mouse and keyboard players are like, you see them talking about all lame, no brain, brain dead, this, haha, outside of like friendly banter, I think that shit's cringe. Straight up. It's so fucking weird. I hate seeing that shit. I see it a lot from the controller community, and then I think a lot of the mouse and keyboard players see it, and then they're just kind of like, imagine this isn't necessarily how I feel, a little bit, but not like too much. And then they're basically saying they're taking almost personal offense to it because people are taking pride in something aiming for you. I just think it's weird on both ends. At the end of the day, you shouldn't fucking hate anybody that you don't know for just playing on what the hell they're playing on. You might disagree with it. Like I don't personally like aim assist. Even when I played controller on games that allowed it, I even took off aim assist because I thought that felt cheesy. But I'm not going to judge you if you use it. That's not the point. Point is, you shouldn't hate people for the peripheral they play on. I think that's fucking weird. I hate seeing this, like, these polar opposite side of the communities constantly clashing against each other on on posts. It's just weird, man. Like, at the end of the day, literally, we're all gaming. We all love Apex. We all share the biggest thing, one of our biggest hobbies and or jobs, depending on how far along you are. We all share that as a collective just interest that we all partake in, that consumes most of our days, you know. And I think it's fucking weird to hate on each other just because of what you play. It's so weird to me. Again, I'm going to reiterate the point. I do wish that the Apex competitive scene had something along the lines of where originally, I think it's too far along. I think it's too far to do this now, because some people are saying get rid of controllers, you know, don't have controllers in the highest level of play. When I see that sentiment, I look at the people that are already made as pro controller players, or at least big streams that are pro controller players. I think it would be like devastating, for example, to look at aim assist. They just won the last ALGS tournament. They're the first full controller squad to do that, and all of a sudden, as soon as they win, people are like, why are controllers even in the top part of competitive? I don't disagree with that, because I do think, again, to reiterate, I do think that you need to have, if you, in the future, I think it's too late to do this now, but in the future, any cross peripheral esport potential out there, I think people need to either be like, hey, competitive is going to be done only on mouse and keyboard or only on controller. I think it's too late for Apex to do that, because I wouldn't want to take away the careers of everyone that's already made themselves. Like, I think of immediately I think of Nicewig, right? One of the biggest controller pros since the start of the scene. Obviously that man's grinding on mouse and keyboard, but he feels that he is more efficient on controller, so he plays on it. I would hate to see all of a sudden a ruling go, hey, sorry, Nicewig, you can't use your controller anymore in comp, you gotta go to mouse and keyboard, and all of a sudden his entire livelihood, I mean, he's got a pop and stream, thankfully for him, but he would have a lot of issues, obviously, competing. Well, maybe not, like, obviously, I do know he's cracked, I don't mean to throw that as like maybe like he would suck or something, but there are a lot of controller players that have never touched mouse and keyboard. They would have a lot of issues now competing in the game that they love and they spent so many hours in. So I don't think that would be the right move. I think it's too late for that. At the end of the day, I don't think there's any move to actually be made. And that might be the hot take that most people disagree with. But the Nask point that I've been wanting to bring up, but I keep getting off on a tangent, is his point was he thinks it's sad that Imperial Hal, who can plug in a controller and wipe most of these controller players out. The counter argument you see very much to that, or very often to that, is, well, Hal has experience on a controller, so therefore It's not necessarily fair to use them as an example. And I actually hard disagree about that, because there are very many examples across the scene of pro players, mouse and keyboard players, plugging in a controller and one-clipping people with pretty decent ease, right? Again, a lot of these mouse and keyboard players, yeah, they might have experience on controller, you're not wrong. But there are a lot of examples. I cannot think of a single controller player that went to mouse and keyboard and was still a god right out of the gate. I cannot think of a single player. There's a lot of them that got very fucking good. There's a lot of them that got really good. Calamity is one. That dude's cracked on mouse and keyboard. Average Jaden is pretty damn good. And he's still sticking on mouse and keyboard. Nicewig was pretty fucking good. Those are just some examples of controller players that went to mouse and keyboard, but it took them time to get there. It took them time to get there. It was not an immediate plug in and they're dropping 3-4k damage in a pred game. And I'm referencing the TSM boys on that. I remember Albrelli, I think the first time Albrelli ever plugged in a controller, and it was the first time he's in Apex. It was the first time he's touched a controller, I think he said in 7 years, and the man dropped a 4k damage game in a Predator lobby. What's the point of all this? Of what the example I just said is that I just wish the controller players out there understand that it is like objectively easier, not subjectively. It is objectively easier. Despite all the players that have had experience on controller, they can plug in a controller and still do pretty all right, being pretty uncomfortable, or being uncomfortable with the controller in Apex. Again, if you've never played mouse and keyboard in Apex, I don't care how many hours you have, it's gonna take you it's gonna take you like a week probably at least to understand what's going on. Sounds like everyone should use a controller, eh? That actually brings me to my next point. Thank you, Mango. I see a lot of people going like, whoa, if it's so busted, then why doesn't everybody use it? Good question. I don't think none of us in the pro scene think that controller is that busted that everybody should be using it. Obviously you do see some people switching, but that's for different reasons, and I could get into that in a bit if you kind of like prove that point. I'm not just like deflecting that point. I'll tell you why I personally don't want to get into it. I don't think controller skills are necessarily transferable, and I only say that because not every game has controller support. Say, you know, what if I was a controller player from day one and then Valorant was coming out? I saw a lot of controller players getting nervous because they thought Valorant was going to take over, and then they were like, oh shit, I can't transfer to Valorant. There's no controller support. That's one of the reasons I don't like to. I want to always be working on my mouse and keyboard skills for myself because it transfers to every game. But then it also leads me to my second point. It's the skill ceiling on mouse and keyboard is way higher, I think, than the skill ceiling on controller. I think if everybody was whatever best aimer you can think of out there on mouse and keyboard, then controller problem wouldn't be that much of an issue. But the problem is that with mouse and keyboard, you do have human error, more human error than you would on a controller. So personally, one of the reasons I, for example, don't want to switch to controllers because I think making a massive play, one clipping one or two people in this very quickly, making a massive flick shot, all of that is way more rewarding on a on a mouse and keyboard than a controller I think ever will be, at least for me. And again, I have competed on mouse and keyboard shooters or controller shooters a lot. I don't think the answer is just, well, everybody swap over. On top of, I want to constantly be getting better at mouse and keyboard. I think controller has a very low skill ceiling that I think a lot of players, I think not a lot, but a lot of the controller pro scene are kind of at. One of the biggest things for players, and I might receive some flack for this, I don't know, but when you look at a lot of the mouse and keyboard pros, a lot of them have a very distinct playstyle, and their movement varies a lot from player to player and how they use that movement. I feel like controller, there isn't really an identity within playing on controller because controller is limiting in this game. Controller is limiting on every front except for the close range aim assist fights where you one clip somebody. And I think that's something that mouse and keyboard players take a little bit of pride in, on top of all of us want to be working on our aim as much as possible. I think in a perfect world, if we were all the best aimers in the world, this wouldn't be even a discussion. Well, we're not. We're constantly working on it. So the point I wanted to make was, I don't think necessarily that most of the pro mouse and keyboard scene, when you see them complain about aim assist, there are some that complain about it in the pro scene, and I've already elaborated on all of that and how I personally feel about it. But I think most of the times you see, or if you're in a stream, mainly if you're in a stream, if you are a viewer of many of the pro scene, you're sitting in their stream, they're playing ranked, they're playing pubs, and then they get beamed and they go, oh, he's probably on controller, right? They spectate him, guy's looting, not moving, confirmed controller. I see a lot of people get defensive over that, and I don't really know why. In the chat, that is. I see a lot of people going, well, oh, just because he beamed you means he's on controller. Oh, blah blah blah. Aim assist this, aim assist that. It's not that bad, etc. I feel like most of the mouse and keyboard versus controller aim assist arguments are more about the pro mouse and keyboard side versus the casual controller side. And it boggles my mind that it's like even a thing. I see, because like I know, for example, Monsoon, I talked to Monsoon obviously a lot. He's a good friend of mine. I know he loses his mind over some of the stuff he sees on Twitter about how he'll post something about like a clip about aim assist, or I don't know, he'll say something and then somebody will say something back to him about like, lol, you mouse and keyboard crybabies, but it's someone from like the casual side of things, which is like, not to say that if you're a casual you can't comment on posts or anything. It's just I think there's a lot of the pro scene that gets annoyed when they die to a controller from somebody that they can tell isn't that great at the game. And before I get grilled for that, a lot of us can very easily tell if someone's not good at the game, even if they're using a controller or even if they're using a mouse and keyboard. There's a lot of telltale factors, especially in a fight. It's very easy to identify very quickly if somebody that killed you is good or bad at the game. And just because they killed you, blah blah blah, they killed you, that means they're better. I mean, whatever. I'm not even gonna tap into how stupid that statement is. But I feel like most of the mouse and keyboard versus controller aim assist is the casual side of the aim assist community, controller community. Just I feel like they feel like they're always being attacked by the pro mouse and keyboard side. So there's a constant just butting heads of communities that don't even like really just mesh very well. So it's just constant. It's just negativity all around. Yeah, exactly. You have a whole arm. You have your whole arm to aim is somehow a rebuttal to you have something aiming for you. Look, again, I want to reiterate, especially after saying what I just said, I don't personally care if you use a controller. I respect the people that are good at controller, because if you want to be at the top of controller, if you want to be at the top of mouse and keyboard, you still have to be fucking good. And I have no doubt that anybody that's at the top of controller I have no doubt that they couldn't swap to mouse and keyboard and be just as good. Because if you are at the top of your game in anything, then you're probably pretty damn good at being versatile and swapping to something else. And you have the hand-eye coordination in a video game sense. Figure it out how to aim and how to do shit. So I don't care neither here nor there on the aim assist. I think it's necessary, unfortunately, for the mouse and keyboard crowd. I'm sorry, but I do think it's necessary because most of the players in this game are a controller. But I do think it's weird when anybody kind of engages in this like superiority argument with each other on like Twitter or in chats, in text chats. For those, and I want to go back to the point, piggybacking off that, where I was talking about a streamer or a pro player complaining about, oh, he's on controller. This is actually, even if one guy gets beamed by a controller player, it is a necessary, I know most people won't get this, but it's a necessary calm to the rest of the team. Because knowing that somebody that you're up against is mouse and keyboard, you approach the fight vastly differently if you know the fight is against somebody who's on controller. To put it, I guess, in pro terms, I'm taking the fight differently if I know that it's fucking Monsoon versus Snipe Down. I know if it's Snipe Down, if I'm anywhere within his fucking R9 range, I'm just gonna walk away from my desk. I'm fucking dead. Monsoon, kind of the same case, but Monsoon still has that element of human error. He's more like Monsoon is less likely to one clip me, and it's not because Monsoon is mechanically inferior to somebody like Snipe Down. It's just that there is the human error element that a lot of mouse and keyboard players usually will push fights. They'll take fights expecting that the other person is also on mouse and keyboard because we're on PC. Naturally, is what we do. And then they expect that human error element. Then they die to a controller, and then they're like, oh, well, he's on controller. Again, that's an important comm because that changes the way the rest of his team is going to play. A lot of people see that as salt, and sometimes it is. There might be salt mixed into every single one of those comments. But that's beside the point. I personally, I hate seeing it in other people's chats. It pisses me off when casual controller side of the community steps up and just start going, lol, look at this mouse and keyboard crybaby. It's like, dude, like, I get it. You play on controller and you're upset that he said he died to a controller player, but like, it ain't that serious at the end of the day. I think that type of mentality on both ends. Like I said, I don't understand why people sexually identify as their fucking FPS shooter peripheral. I think people on both ends, at the end of the day, need to just stop being fucking toxic toward each other. I see it on Twitter posts on both ends. It's not one side more than the other. It's both just even. At the end of the day, we all share love for Apex. We all share love for this game. Aim assist isn't going anywhere. I can almost guarantee that. Just saying. And I think it's fucking weird to hate somebody just for what they play on. Plain and simple. That's like the heart of it. That's the heart of my entire rant. I know it's a little unorganized, a little drunk, a little tipsy rather, not necessarily drunk. But that's kind of like the vast majority of what I wanted to hit on. Is I personally, I don't care about controller players. Apex wouldn't be a game without them. I respect the high-end controller players that are good at what they do, because a lot of players out there are fucking cracked, like Slurpee, Knocked, Touche, all the aim assist boys, Snipe Down, obviously. I can't believe I even forgot him. That man literally is one of the reasons I'm even competing. T-Squared as well. He fits that boat as well. Those two are like my idols. Just saying, got a fanboy. But yeah, I respect everybody that's a high-level controller player. I respect the controller players even more that know that aim assist is a little bit strong. Which is why I love most of the pro scene. Most of this game's pro scene that is on controller knows that aim assist is a bit strong. Hell, they fucking meme it literally all the time. But then it's the casual side of things that kind of come in and just like shit on it by taking it a little step too far. On both ends. On both ends. End of my rant, basically. Stop being a fucking dick to each other just because of who plays what. The Dolphin tournament was almost set up for controller players to win. I don't know why people are so surprised by that. I don't know why people are so upset by it. It's a fun tournament that Dolphin wanted to put on, crowdfunded for I think $1,030. Like, I was personally hoping people would be more grateful than fucking upset. But unfortunately, it stirred all this bullshit. G Dolphin, if you happen to be watching this, a YouTube channel or something, seriously, thank you for throwing that tournament. Thank you for putting it on. Don't feel bad about what you did. You did the community I feel like you did the community more of a service than a disservice. Don't be discouraged by all the dumbasses that try to turn it into a war as if you were spitting on their family's graves.